Distance can be a major barrier to accessing quality healthcare on time. That's where Angel Flight East comes in. Welcome to Takeoff Talk with Angel Flight East, a nonprofit dedicated to providing free flights for children and adults who need medical treatment far from home. We don't know how many people forego medical care because they don't have accessible transportation, and that's what this podcast is here to change. Join passionate AFE staff members Jess, Ames, and Maddy, Beck as they share real-life stories from people who have used AFE services to get the care they need when they need it.
So welcome back with another episode of Takeoff Talk. You're here with me, Maddy.
And me, Jess.
And we have a passenger with us from Angel Flight Northeast, Christian Leduc, and his mom. Hi, Beth.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Thanks for joining us. Do you want to give our listeners a little bit of background about Christian's story?
Absolutely. So Christian is now just over 4 years old. He turned 4 in September. And in 2020, in sort of the height of COVID, he was diagnosed with a condition called leukodystrophy. It's a genetic condition. There's about 50 or 52 known identified types. It's very rare. And so like I said, he was diagnosed in 2020. And as we were navigating a new diagnosis, we were trying to figure out, the best doctors and where we needed to go. And one of the things that we were faced with was how to get where we needed to go. So Christian's specific leukodystrophy is called TUBB4A or TUB4A related leukodystrophy. And we actually, as we were navigating everything, we found a doctor in Philadelphia who discovered that the gene mutation, which is the TUBB4A gene, was disease causing. So we started doing a lot of research about that facility, CHOP, so Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And we started thinking, like, how are we going to get to Philadelphia? In the midst of that, we also found a doctor in Boston at Mass General that ran a the leukodystrophy center there. Boston is much closer, but still, a ways away, right? So we're in Vermont. Boston is, a 3 to 4 hour trip. So, you want to travel to Boston even for a 1 or 2 hour appointment, that's an entire day of travel right there. So we actually we had known a local family who had a kiddo that was medically complex. And I called them and I said, you guys used to fly with a group called Angel Flights, right? And I was like, I need their number. So I got Angel Flights number. And then we started flying with Angel Flights I believe that our first flight, it's been a long time now, I'm trying to think back, but our first flight was in, I believe, December 2021.
Okay.
I have to look back because it's been a while. It might have even, maybe it was December 2020. Oh gosh, it's been that long that I have to think back. We've been navigating things for a while. So.
Oh, so cute.
Thank you. And so we started, one of our first trips was going to Philadelphia. And Angel Flight was amazing. I was navigating a world I knew nothing about. And I called Angel Flights, and from day one, they were extremely warm, welcoming, understanding. And I immediately felt like I found an amazing support system. They figured out our flights. They arranged ground transportation. It was like the only thing I really needed to be concerned with was figuring out like exactly where I needed to go, right? But I didn't have to worry about how I was going to get there, which was a huge relief for me. And it allowed me to really focus on the important thing, right? Which was caring for Christian. So it took the pressure of figuring out how am I going to get where I need to be, and also being able to get places quickly because I also have another kiddo. So traveling with Angel Flights has allowed me to get where I need to go quickly, easily, and get back in time to be there for my other kiddo. Yeah, that's a lot of information.
Yeah, that's amazing though. How often do you have to travel for Christian's treatment?
So it sort of ebbs and flows. In the beginning, we traveled a little bit more because we were trying to establish our team. Now we have a very large team. And so we go to Philadelphia 2 to 3 times a year. We go to Mass General about twice a year. And we also have added specialties at Children's Hospital or Boston Children's. And we go there, I would say about 2 to 3 times a year. So, 6 or 7 trips throughout the year, roughly.
So they keep you busy.
Yes, he does. We are definitely like frequent flyers, and I don't really realize how much we fly until I see it in writing. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, we've been on a lot of trips. Like it's just sort of become like old hat
right.
for us. And the thing is that I tend to be a little bit of a nervous flyer. It's not my favorite thing. Is it funny? He thinks it's pretty funny. But it's really, everybody I've worked with is been amazing, and it's not the pilots or anybody like that makes me nervous. It's just flying itself. But everybody's been super reassuring and really kind and accommodating, and I really couldn't ask for anything more, especially when you're navigating something that's so new.
Yeah. And so as a nervous flyer, when you first found out how Angel Flights work, like being small general aviation airplanes, were you at first like, you want me to get in a what, when, where? Or were you just kind of like, okay, this is what we have to do. Let's go for it?
A little bit of both. I was like, oh my gosh, that's the plane. I don't even know how we're gonna fit all of our stuff on there because we don't travel light, right? Like, so Christian uses a car seat and a stroller, and we also have like a suction machine, and so we have all of this stuff, and not to mention just like food and my bags, and so I was like, I don't really know how this is gonna work. But the other piece of it is I had a choice, right? I could say, I could stay where I am and get treatment where I live, which is not a bad place at all, but Vermont is very small. And the reality is, if we wanted to see specialists that had the experience that we really needed, then we needed to travel outside of Vermont. And so I just made a decision like, this is it. And I have to just kind of, deal with it. And here we go. I do still, as we're flying, I do still like sort of jump a little bit as, we hit like air pockets and such. And if there's turbulence, I definitely get nervous, but my trick is to always look at the pilot, and if they don't look panicked, then
that's how you know.
I feel like I can breathe a little bit. But yeah, everybody has just been so kind and great to our family. I call and they know immediately who it is. Once I say hi, I'm even able to, at this point, share videos of, what Christian's up to when he's not traveling, right?
Yeah.
Like he did horseback riding, and he just ended it because they break for the winter. But I was able to, send a video like Christian started horseback riding, and this coming weekend he's going to try adapted skiing. So I'll be sending videos. Like I feel like it's like an extension sort of our family because they get to know me so well. And it's just been a really great support system for us and a really great feeling to know that you're taken care of. Your kiddo is taken care of. You're in good hands. And we've had so many pilots. And in the beginning, I had one specific pilot for like my first few flights. And then I met somebody new and I was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize how big Angel Flights was until I started like meeting a lot of new pilots. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I haven't met you. We've been flying for X amount of years. So it's always sort of funny to me when I meet somebody new. I'm like, I just forget how big the group is,
Yeah. And it's like nonstop because there's so many of us. Like we're so Angel Flight East alone is one of like 60 different public benefit flying organizations in the country. So it's just like we all work together. So the Angel Flight East pilots sometimes will fly for Angel Flight Northeast, but sometimes they don't. And that's fine. But it's just so funny because we'll help each other with different flights. And you're like, oh my gosh, there's more pilots. And there's more pilots.
Right. And it's the thing I always just say thank you. Like, thank you for all you do and for what you do. And the response that I always get is it's the least I can do. And I just feel like that's so, like the least you could do is nothing, right? You don't have to do this, right? You could do less, but like, these resources choose to help. They choose to take time out of their day. They choose to offer support. And when you're navigating life with a complex kiddo or any sort of caregiving situation, right? When somebody takes something off your plate, that's huge, right? Like I don't have to worry about the travel. I don't have to say, oh my gosh, like I have to pack up my car because I have to drive to Boston tomorrow. And like, I need to like, make sure I know where hospitals are in case I need to like, in case we have an emergency or in case of whatever, right? It really just takes so much pressure off. When Christian was first diagnosed and we first found the doctor in Philadelphia at CHOP, I was mapping out how long it would take us to get there. And it was 9 hours. It was a 9-hour drive. And again, we have another kiddo. At the time, my husband and I were both working full time. It was like, how are we going to figure this out? And it turns out I just had to make a phone call.
Yeah, we were just talking about this yesterday, how humble the pilots are, and they think they do such a small task of helping people, where from the outsider and the patient perspective, we're like, you don't understand the impact that you're having on families like yours, because you would have to make that 9-hour drive, and maybe you could do it once or twice, and then you may be like, this is way too much. Like, let's just find treatment locally that might not be the best care for Christian and his diagnosis, but this just opens up a whole new world of opportunities for him to get better.
Absolutely. And because of my connections with Angel Flights, I've been also able to share their information with other local families who didn't know about the group. And the thing that I think is also amazing, and I didn't even know this in the beginning, that Angel Flights didn't just help kiddos. They help adults as well, which is also something that I've been able to share with people who are struggling to figure out, how they're going to get to certain hospitals. And especially in Vermont, right? We're really close to Boston, but from a driving perspective, it's still a decent trip. You know, for a 1 hour appointment, 3 hours, 4 hours each way, you're talking an entire day spent traveling, right? When I fly with Angel flights, it's, you know, 4 to 5 hours collectively, right? That's there and back, and my visit. So it cuts that time down so much that you can have a better balance regardless of your situation, right? And if you're navigating a world with any sort of medical complexity or any sort of, you know, when you have a lot of appointments, it's really hard sometimes to find that balance between just living your life and going to appointments all the time. And if you can cut some travel out of that, I think it helps that out a lot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yesterday, Jess and I were literally talking about how just big states are in general. Mm-hmm. And even if you lived like within the same state, you're still like, oh my gosh, it's still going.
Yep, absolutely. So. It's so much. And I think that's been like one of the biggest things for us is how are we going to, you know, get where we need to go and get there quickly. I mean, our appointments are like, it's not like an emergency situation. Like we have to, you know, get there within an hour. But again, it helps create that balance when you have other kiddos, when you have other things going on, to be able to go somewhere and back the same day and not have to figure out even more in addition to navigating appointments and finding the specialists and all of that.
Do you have a favorite or most memorable flight you've done with us?
Probably my first was the most memorable because I was so fearful, right? And I mean, it was like, I was so nervous. And again, I get a little bit nervous now, but it's sort of like, you know, kind of like old hat at this point. I'm trying to think. I mean, we've flown so much. I'm just trying to think of one specific instance. It's hard because I think of like, well, who's been the nicest? But everybody's been the nicest. So it's really hard to think of one specific case where, you know, anything's been like super special. Everybody's just been great. I guess one of the most memorable experiences I do have a memorable experience. I had totally forgotten about this. We were going to Boston and all of a sudden, so we're in the airport and this person walked by and they looked just like Shaquille O'Neal. And I was like,
that's somebody that's like, there's not a lot of lookalikes of.
Yeah. Well, not only that, as he's walking, I was like, well, there's no way he looks like him and is that tall.
That's right? What I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So I stopped him and I said, will you take a picture with me or with my kiddo? And he was like, here, give me your phone really quick. And we took a picture with Shaquille O'Neal.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Can you send it to us?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that.
I can't believe I had forgotten about that, but I guess that was the most memorable. And the funniest thing about it was, so he was on his way to a game, of course, but right after I was like on my phone, like calling my husband and like calling everybody I know, like, you'll never believe who I just saw. I can't believe I totally forgot about that. But everybody in the airport, like all of the like workers were trying to not like act like phased by it, right? And I was like looking at it, I was like, oh my gosh. And everybody else was playing it so cool, but I was totally starstruck. Yeah, of course. I literally called my husband. I was like, oh my gosh, I just saw Shaquille O'Neal as I was sending him a picture.
That's so fun.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. Yeah, I guess that was an extremely memorable experience. I can't believe I had forgotten about that. Things just tend to blend together, I think, in my days and in my travels.
Makes sense. You have enough of them.
Yeah, it's true. And then, of course, one of the other really nice experiences we had was being able to meet all of the resources. They answer the phones. So we got to fly into the office one day and say hi. They featured Christian's story when they did the Angel Flights Gala. So we flew in and we got to meet all of the people that we call and say hi to fairly regularly. So it was nice to put faces with the names and the voices. And to say thank you in person, and for them to meet Christian. I feel like it puts a different perspective on things when you meet and you make those connections in person. And for so long, because of COVID, and I don't want to project, I know a lot of people were very careful, but we were, I felt like we sort of lived aside from everybody else for even a little bit longer, given our situation. So it was nice to finally like get out and like meet people face to face more and make those connections.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that's the other benefit of flying with Angel Flight is going from having to be in like those super public areas to now you're like in such a safe environment with the pilot, right, and it's just the pilot and you guys.
Yeah. And that was the other piece of it too, for me, it was scary enough to go into these hospitals with all of these people and all of this risk. And especially because, like I said, when we started flying, it was still in the midst of everything. And going to these big cities and these hospitals, and I was definitely fearful of, you know, who am I going to get near? Where am I going to be? You know, where he could be exposed because he's not able to mask. So that was always really intimidating. And that's a really good point. Like being around less people felt safer. I mean, I would have never gotten on a commercial flight.
Yeah. And even just a rest stop or like the gas station was just as scary sometimes.
Or a large airport, because of course, as you know, when we fly, right, we fly into the, like, you know, where the pilots go. And so you can keep a distance from people, and it's not, you know, you're not shoulder to shoulder with a bunch of people and crowds and all of that. So yeah, it definitely feels much safer. Even now when we don't take as many precautions, right, it still feels more comfortable. Because we still have to be, right, a little bit more cautious than some people, and take those things into account. So, yeah.
I almost wish they would have kept the mask mandate in airports because I didn't realize how not sanitary people are until you had to sit right next to people on a plane, like shoulder to shoulder without wearing a mask. And I'm like, can you please cover your mouth when you cough or sneeze? Because I just felt droplets on my arm.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I know. And it's one of those things I feel like pre-COVID, we were kind of like, ugh, but now we're like, you know, I mean, I think it brought to attention.
You're like so hyper aware of it now.
Yeah, absolutely. 1,000%. And the other really nice thing, I just always sing Angel Flight's praises, but something else that's really nice that I didn't even know they did. So when we started flying that first Christmas, we had all of a sudden on our doorstep, we had this big box. And I was like, what is this? And I Googled the name on the return address. It was addressed to our family. And I was like, okay, I Googled the address, and it was like the address of like the CEO at like Hasbro or something. And I was like, who is sending us this stuff? And we opened this box, and there were 2 presents for each of our kids, which I just thought was such a nice thing. I actually called the other, the family whose number I had originally gotten Angel Flight's number from. And I was like, did you guys get like this box? Like, we got this box of gifts. I don't, is this typical? Like, am I supposed to, you know, I felt guilty about taking them. And they were like, oh yes, they do it every year. And I just thought that was so nice. It was just like a little something extra that they do that just brings more joy, right? So like, it was just, it's just like an extra step. And that extra step just really shows how much the group is invested in, you know, not only getting us where we need to go, but also just sort of sending an additional hug, you know, which I thought was really nice and really kind. And so every year my kiddos each get 2 little gifts from them, which is just so nice.
That's so sweet.
I love that.
Yeah, it's such a nice thing that they do, and we love it.
So what's one final thought you want to leave our listeners with?
Just an immense amount of appreciation for Angel Flights and what they do, and just how grateful we are to know them and to have them in our lives. It's really been super life-changing for us. Like I said, when you're navigating a lot of medical complexities, knowing that you have support is huge, and having somebody that can take some things off of your plate and help you get the care that you want for your kiddos is huge. So just a ton of appreciation and thankfulness and gratefulness, and yes.
We appreciate you sharing your story and having Kristen on too, our little special guest.
He loves his Angel Flight family for sure.
Well, we appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. That little Christian is so cute.
And I wanted to tell her that I really appreciated that she sewed her Christmas tree up, because if it was up to me, I would leave my Christmas tree up all year.
I hate people like you.
I want to be like, you can unblur your background. Seeing a Christmas tree makes me excited.
I feel like when you have little people, and by little people I mean children, not midgets.
You know, I've already had 2 mess ups on this podcast, and I don't need a third. I hope Today is listening, because Today, we love you, and you know, sometimes mistakes happen. I promise it wasn't me.
I don't even know whose picture you put on it.
I don't know whose picture that is. It's like just a stranger. I feel like
those who are wondering what we're talking about, Jess has to submit all the pictures for each podcast episode to our editors. And the episode cover, like one of the pictures in our podcast picture, was some strange man, and not the man on the podcast. Neither of us have any idea who he is.
We need to do a reverse image search to find out.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
This is how I treat our rookie of the year. I actually, when I saw his name pop up on my phone, I was quite scared. I'm like, I'm not in the mood to be yelled at today. But luckily, today is easygoing.
I would actually really enjoy you getting yelled at by him, because I just don't think he yelled.
I know. I don't think I could take it seriously.
I feel like he's the dad who would just tell you that he's disappointed.
Which is worse. I want someone to be mad at me, not disappointed.
Right? Just yell, get it over with. Just give it to me.
Just let me get on with my day, sad.
Well, now you know how to reprimand Jess and I.
What if we just get like an influx of calls of people saying they're disappointed in us?
It's going to be Tom Mellett. Hi, Tom. Don't be disappointed.
Tom Mellett, you have to come in to see Maddy's Christmas present that I bought her, because I'm getting everybody one for Valentine's Day.
And we're not going to tell you what it is. You have to come see it. Maybe on Valentine's Day we'll have an unveiling of what I got.
I need
because
to.
Everybody keeps telling me I'm not allowed to bring it home.
Yeah, Mrs. Beck, Linda Beck, why can't you bring it home and put it on your couch?
Oh my God.
I can't wait for Oscar to see it.
Well, we'll see you guys next week. Have a great week.
All right, bye.
That's it for today's episode of Takeoff Talk with Angel Flight East. If you want to learn more about our services, please visit our website at www.angelflighteast.org or call our office at 215-358-1900. Join us in our mission. If you're a healthcare worker or a patient in need of air travel and flight services, AFE is here for you. Subscribe to the show so you can hear more stories. Join us again next week right here on Takeoff Talk.